Hi guys, welcome back to the Mina Does Art Stuff YouTube channel. My name is Mina and on this channel we do art stuff. I first of all just want to say we are currently going through a bit of a heat wave here in the UK, so if you can hear a fan going off in the background, I'm really sorry, but I'm in the attic of our house and it's unbearably warm in here without the fan on. So I have a little itty bitty Jackson's art haul here for you guys today. So without further ado, let's just jump right on in. And as you can see here, I have a selection of Roman Szmal paints. This is a selection of their paints other than one, I think. Other than one of them, the rest are from their newly released colours. I'm not sure how new they were released, but they were newly added to Jackson's just recently. So this isn't all of the new colours. I think there were a few that were out of stock and a couple that I just wasn't interested in. So I've got 11 of the new colours and one which is a pre-existing colour, but I wanted it anyway. So we are going to take a look at these, unwrap them and swatch them today and see how they look. Obviously you can see them swatched out on the actual wrappers because they're wrapped in watercolour paper with an actual paint swatch on them, but we're going to do bigger swatches. So first up we have Anthraquinone Yellow PY147. Most of these are pigments, a lot of these are new pigments that I haven't heard of before, so this is one of them. Anthraquinone Yellow I've not heard of before, and I've not come across PY147. Then we have Gamboge Hue, which is PY95. Now I'm pretty sure I've heard of PY95 before, or I've seen it, but I don't have PY95 in my stash, so that'll be a new one to check out. Then this is the one that's from their previous range. It's Goethite, PBR not applicable, it's an earth pigment. The only other Goethite I've used has been from Daniel Smith. Sorry about the focus, there we go. It's been from Daniel Smith, so I wanted to try out the Roman Szmal version. I'm just going to leave my hand here and hopefully the focus won't be an issue. Then next up we have this one, which is Quinacridone Warm Scarlet. This is PR207, another slightly more unconventional pigment. It's not uncommon. I have a tube of Schmincke's Quinacridone Red Light, which is the same PR207, so it'll be interesting to see what this one is like. Then we have Perylene Vermilion. And this is an interesting one because first of all I've never heard of Perylene Vermilion before, but also this PR123, and the only other time I've come across this pigment before, oh geez, sorry, oh okay, sorry, a big fly just flew in through my open window and distracted me. Apologies. The only other time I've heard of PR123 was in Paul Rubens' 2014 set of watercolors. I think that's the pigment number for their scarlet color. Then we have Raspberry Red, which is an interesting name, and that is PR272. Again, another pigment number I've not heard of before. Sorry, this fly is very distracting. PR272 is not a pigment I've come across before, so I thought that would be an interesting one to check out. Looks like it's going to be a nice sort of pale corally pink color. Then we have the only blue that I got from their new set. This is a phthalo blue turquoise shade, and it's PB15:4. So typically phthalo turquoise that I've seen in the past has always been PB15:6, or it's been some kind of mix of phthalo blue, green shade and phthalo green. So I've not come across a PB15:4 before, so that should be interesting to try out. Then we have Strontium Violet, sorry. This is PV62. I've only seen this in a couple of other brands. Schmincke use PV62 for their Cobalt Violet hue, and so does Lucas. They use, I think it's PV62 that Lucas uses for their Cobalt Violet color as well. But I've not tried the Lucas one. I have tried the Schmincke one before, but I don't have it anymore. But I've not tried the Lucas one. Then we have Aquarius Violet, which is one of their custom blend colors, and this is made up of PV29, PV19 and PR255. So So those are all very familiar pigments. Next up we have Natural Umber Reddish. So it's an earth brown, and it's a PBR 7. Then we have what they call Urban Grey, so that's another one of their unique mixes. This is a mix of PW6:1, so it's like a buff titanium, or it could also be Aquarius Grey. Both of those have the same pigment number. PBR29, which is a brown, and PB29, ultramarine blue, and PY150, which is nickel azo yellow. So it's an interesting mix of colours. And finally we have Velvet Black, and I was really intrigued by this one because it's PR264 and PG7. So PR264 is one of my favourite red shades, and so I was really interested to see this one. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this one swatches. Those are all the colours. I'm going to get to unwrapping. I'm going to unwrap and label them off camera, and then I'll come back and we'll do some swatching. I'll unwrap one of them on camera just so you can see how they come. If the focus will work, there we go. So they just come wrapped in this paper wrapping, which is watercolor paper, and they also have foil wrapped around them, and they also come with a sort of a whatchamacallit, greaseproof paper type parchment paper on top. Now it is quite warm, so I probably should have stuck these in the freezer before doing this, but I can't be bothered, and I'll just save the tops to use for swatching at the end. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these, and I'll catch up back with you after. Okay, we are back. Everything's unwrapped and labelled. I have a swatch card here. I'm using my Da Vinci Castaneo size 6 brush, and the paper is this little offcut of Arches watercolour paper that I had. And so here we go. First up we have the Anthraquinone Yellow, and this one is PY147. It's lovely rich warm yellow. Definitely my kind of yellow. Really like a nice warm yellow tone. There we go. Then we have Gamboge Hue PY95. I imagine this is going to be a similarly warm hue of yellow. Yep. I'd say if you have one, you probably don't need the other. But I love a good warm yellow, and I know I will find a good use for it. Next up we have Goethite. This is a natural earth pigment. It's like a slightly browner version of like a raw sienna or yellow ochre, but not quite as dark as an umber or a burnt sienna. It's actually a really good mixing colour. I recently at the beginning of summer included it in one of my inner palettes, the Daniel Smith version, and I really enjoyed it in mixes. It adds really beautiful granulation, so I would mix it with my yellows to get some nice granulating yellows. And I wanted to see what the Roman Szmal version was going to be like. Okay, next up we have Quinacridone Warm Scarlet. This looks like a really nice sort of corally pink colour, so we shall see how this paints out. It's really nice sort of light pinkish, yeah, like a corally pink, pretty much what I expected. It reminds me a little bit of Quinacridone Coral from Daniel Smith, but maybe a little bit more pink. Next up we have the Perylene Vermilion, PR123. So I've never heard of a Perylene Vermilion, and this is the first sort of traditional professional brand that I've seen with this pigment, PR123. Like I said, the only other brand I've seen before is from Paul Rubens. It's really nice, sort of rich red. It's really nice in the wash as well. Like it's nice, sort of. I could see this being really good for portraits. Like it's a nice blush or for mixing skin tones. Yeah, that's a beautiful. Be interesting to see how this one dries. I know Perylene colours can have quite a drying shift, so it'll be interesting to see how that dries. And next up we have Raspberry Red, PR272. So again, another pigment I'm unfamiliar with. Okay, it's definitely a warm red, at least compared to the other two. Definitely comes across as like a heavier pigment, so it's a bit more on the opaque side when it's in mass tone, but it does wash out to a nice sort of transparent colour. That's really pretty. And then we have, I'd say the warm quinacridone warm scarlet has the least variation in colour from mass tone to light wash compared to the other two reds. Then next up we have the phthalo blue turquoise shade, is how Roman Szmal are phrasing it. This is a PB15:4, so it's a very green leaning blue. Yeah. It'd be interesting. I don't think I have Roman Szmal's phthalo blue green shade, but I think I do have their turquoise blue. I'm not entirely sure now. It'd be interesting to compare that with the phthalo blue green shade to see the difference. Next up we have the Strontium Violet, PV62. It's a very blue leaning purple. But this purple, or violet rather, has really strong granulation, so yeah, you can already see it granulating quite heavily, even in the mass tone. This is another one that would be really good for mixes, because it's not a super high tinting colour, I don't think, but it will definitely lend its granulation to mixes. And then next up we have the first of the Roman Szmal sort of custom blends, and this is the Aquarius Violet. This one was the one that was stuck the worst to the paper. This is a mix of PV29, PV19 and PR255, and so because PR255 is a warmer red pigment, is going to be a much more muted sort of violet colour. So typically if you want a brighter, clearer violet, you use like a PV19, quinacridone rose, magenta to mix with your blues. And when you add a warm red, you get a more muted sort of violet colour, which is what we're getting here. But it's a beautiful shade, and it'll be interesting to see the granulation. Add in some water drops to really encourage that. Alright, then next up we have Natural Umber Reddish, PBR7. Roman Szmal has a really wide range of beautiful earth tones. And whilst I don't use earth tones a lot, I do prefer the redder toned browns over the cooler browns in general. So I thought this one would be right up my street, and yep, I can say that I most certainly would enjoy using this brown. A little bit more pigment to the top. There we go. Next up we have another custom blend. This is Urban Grey. It's a mixture of PW6:1, and I would assume that this is the Aquarius Grey over buff titanium version. PBR29, which is a brown pigment, PB29 ultramarine blue, and PY150 nickel as a yellow. And you can see already this is a very opaque sort of colour going down, and I imagine that's the PW6. Be interesting to see if this granulates, since it does have ultramarine in it. And I don't know about the PBR29 if the brown is granulating as well or not, so I'm not familiar with that pigment. There we go. I'm gonna throw in a couple of drops of clear water to encourage that granulation. And then finally we have Velvet Black, which is another custom colour they've blended. PR264 and PG7, and I can't remember the name, the typical name for PR264. I think every brand uses a different name for it, but I do have a few versions of it that I really like. It's a really nice warm black almost. Oh wait, no, maybe not warm, more cool. I guess it depends what you put next to it, but that green is really starting to come through a bit more now when you wash it out. I don't expect this one to granulate because phthalos aren't typically granulating, and PR264 isn't typically granulating either, so I expect this to dry pretty flat, but it'll be interesting to see. It's definitely got a green tinge to it, so I could see this being quite nice for anything. Like if you want to use a black in a painting that has a lot of green in it, this would be a nice one to use. Alright, those are the colours that I've purchased, and I'm going to wait for these all to dry, and then we'll come back and have another little look at them right at the end. Okay, back for the final time. Paints are all dry, swatches are dry rather, ignore the little blue splotch on there. So we have Anthraquinone Yellow and Gamboge Hue. I'd say those two are very similar to each other. You definitely don't need both in your palette. Goethite, really great mixer, has some nice sort of darker granulation splitting out there. That would make some beautiful mixes. The three reds, Quinacridone Warm Scarlet, Perylene Vermilion and Raspberry Red. Of the three, obviously the Perylene Vermilion is the darkest, and I actually really like it. I don't think there was a huge drastic colour shift, and it still looks beautiful dry. I'd say the Raspberry Red and Quinacridone Warm Scarlet are fairly similar to each other. Again, I don't think you need both. I'd actually say the Raspberry Red is probably more versatile because it has there's more of a range in the colour from mass tone to a light wash over the Quinacridone Warm Scarlet. It doesn't really get too dark, so you'd probably get more of a range of colours, or values rather, from Raspberry Red than the other. The Phthalo Blue Turquoise shade is a really lovely turquoisey blue, transparent turquoise blue. Then we have Strontium Violet, again really nice strong granulator, would be great for some mixes. And this is also the same violet pigment that's used in a lot of the Schminke super granulation colours. So if you are interested in making some of your own mixes, and you maybe Schminke is more expensive for your budget, Roman Szmal is definitely better value. The Aquarius Violet, you can see here, has some beautiful and interesting colour separating granulation going on. Definitely some of that blue is coming out. Then we have the Natural Umber Reddish, which is not particularly granulating. Urban Grey has some very light, mild granulation when you look at it up close, but it's not a super heavy granulator. And then the velvet black, that's just a beautiful sort of flat black. That's just a little bit more sort of green leaning, like a bit cooler from the phthalo green in the mix. But yeah, so those are the new colours, minus the goethite, which is a pre-existing one. I hope you found this interesting, and if any of these are of interest to you, I will have links down below to the Roman Szmal page on Jackson's. It is an affiliate link, and if you do use my link and purchase something, I just get a small commission from your purchase. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps out this channel, and I'm always so appreciative of anyone who does use my links below. So thank you all very much for joining me today, and I will see you guys very soon. Take care. Bye.